Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I'm coming back at you with another wargaming and miniature video. In today's video, we're gonna continue on with my American War of Independence project update. As you know, I'm working with Joe Crone's rules called Land of the Free. Glare, gotta love it. Land of the Free. It's a hardback. I went to the Osprey website to check on these rules, and they are available, but only in PDF form. So if you're interested in Land of the Free, you can pick up a hardback copy on my website, on my eBay store, because I have a second copy on the eBay store. It's still bubble wrapped and everything. But if you want a PDF, you can go to the Osprey website and download it. If you can find it out there, if you can find these hardbacks out there somewhere, I strongly recommend picking a copy of it up. This is an excellent set of rules for the American War of Independence. But okay, I went on a tangent. In today's video, we're not really going to be talking about figures, or I'm not going to show any like completed figures or anything like that. I think I already did a update a few days ago where I showed off the 2 British units that I did, and if I haven't, I'll double check, and if I haven't, I'll do another video. I'll throw that into my next video. But I did 2 British regiments and a bunch of British generals. I have 1 Hessian regiment and a bunch of Hessian generals, and then I have like 5 Continental regiments and like a bunch of Continental generals, and I'm putting all this together. I'm putting these units together based on the figures that I have, the flags that I have, and the look of the units that I'll look at a unit like the 4th New York, and I'll say, ooh, I definitely want to do that unit. And so I will try to see if I've got the figures, see if I've got the flag, and then I'll put that unit together. Whether or not that unit is at Freeman's farm, at least I've got another regiment done. Well, I am working on Dearborn's Light Infantry and the 4th New York, which are both at Freeman's farm. So that's great, right? Okay. So those are the next figures that I'm going to be working on. I've got them primed and ready to go on popsicle sticks, but I've been kind of pushed them off to the side because I have a commission from a customer, and I just finished his Russians, and now I'm working on his French and Prussians. So I'm putting my personal collection on the back burner. So as a project, there you go. So you might not see an update for a week or so because of the because I feel obligated to do these commissions. Okay. So I want to take this opportunity to talk about the rules, the scenario, my feelings on the Land of the Free rules, and a couple of bullet points that I want to touch on. This is not a boot camp. This is just me giving you a general gut feeling of the rules. There will be a boot camp. First of the month, I'm going to start filming in earnest some videos, and one of them will be my Land of the Free boot camp, where I'll show you exactly how these rules work and go into finite detail of each of the rules and why it's a good rule or why it's a bad rule, right? Okay. So, one of the first things I want to touch on was the genre. Land of the Free is wargame rules in North America. Okay. It could encompass the Civil War, right? If I wanted to use these rules to play a Civil War game, you could, but there's a few things missing from Land of the Free that you would have to house rule. Like there's no, like the weapon systems, like breech loaders or rifled cannons or Gatling guns, that kind of stuff, right? But everything else is just guys in line with muskets and bayonets shooting each other across a big open field. It works for that. It's a lot like black powder in that regards, but that's not what it's designed for. It's designed for before 1815. Now, if you think about that, 1815, what happened in 1815 that these rules could cover? Waterloo, right? The end of the Napoleonic period was in 1815. So these rules could be used to play Napoleonics. Again, that's not what they're designed for, but you could. And the time period is 1754, which is like the early America, the 7 Years' War, the French and Indian War, right? And 1815, and all the way through to 1815. They even have the War of 1812 in here, the New Orleans and all that. And then they also have like generic scenarios like meeting engagement, ambush, that's what they're called, right? What's this one called? Take the field, reconnoiter, hold ground, flank attack, surrounded, ambush, frontal assault, meeting engagement. Meeting engagement, I think, would be the most I'm going to say most popular for like a tournament style game. But yeah, that's not the way I plan to use the rules. I don't plan to play tournament style. I plan to play scenarios. And what I'll do is I'll take written scenarios from this book or other books, and I might convert them, like British Grenadier, I might convert them into these rules, because all it is just making sure units are organized properly. And then but I'll also do my own research into the battle so that I might or might not like the way the scenario is written. Okay. And they do have the Battle of Princeton in here. The way they've got the river and the road and where the British enter and stuff like that, it doesn't look like it's correct. So, but I don't know. I'll have to do a little research on that, but it doesn't look correct because I know my Battle of Princeton. Okay. Um, I wanted to touch on something that I didn't realize before. Well, the first time I read these rules, which was probably about a year ago, I had a misunderstanding of orders. I thought orders were orders, and that was it, and that's not the case. Uh, the orders, you have two different kinds of orders, right? You got maneuver orders. You have, well, actually, I'm looking at the contents. It's showing that there's multiple types of orders. There's forced orders, maneuver orders, combat orders, and group orders. But mainly there's two types of orders that you need to concern yourself with, and that's movement orders and then combat orders. And every unit has a number of maneuver orders and they have a number of combat orders. And it's not, they don't overlap. So you don't use movement orders to conduct combat. You don't use combat to conduct movement, which it took me a moment to get that concept to wrap my head around it. Took me apparently a year because I read these. I have never played these rules. I've only read them and theorized how I'm going to play them and looked at the dice mechanics and stuff like that. And I see that if it's a good thing or a bad thing or what have you. But I didn't understand maneuver and combat orders. I kind of assumed they were the same thing. And I just said, okay, the guy's got 5 orders, so he can move 3 times and then he could shoot twice, or he could shoot and reload or whatever. And that's not the case. Now, there's something about shooting. That's part of your combat orders. You have to use a combat order to shoot. But reloading is not a combat order. That's a maneuver order. So what they're saying is that your unit has to basically be stationary for one order to reload. So let's say at the start of your turn, you are fully loaded. You're ready to go. And you've got 4 maneuver orders. You could move 4 times. Each order allows you to move once. So you just go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you, if you want to use a combat order, let's say you've got 3 of them, you could shoot. But then that's only 1 order. So there might be a volley fire or something like that. Might be 2 orders. I might be getting some rules mixed up. Long range, shooting the flank. Oh yeah, they have ragged volleys and punishing volleys. Split fire, dice pulls, solid shot, rifles. Okay, there's grape and stuff like that for your cannons. Combat order. Fire a volley. Okay, that's just shooting, right? Firing a volley. Fight in melee. Or store a combat order. So you could like put a guy in Overwatch. They call it they don't call it Overwatch, they call it storing an order. So you can store a maneuver order to be used later for like a counter charge, or you can store a combat order to do a snap fire, which means you can shoot at some time like Overwatch. I think that's really cool that you have to plan ahead. you don't just automatically get to shoot someone if they charge you or if they move close. You had to have saved one of your orders. And for maneuvering, like let's say you've got Cav that wants to do a countercharge, you can't just automatically countercharge. They would have had to have dedicated a maneuver order from the previous turn to be able to do that. And both of those makes you plan your moves a little bit more than just, your traditional I'll move a unit up and I'll shoot and then we'll melee, right? No, and that's another thing. Let's say you've got a unit that has 3 combat actions, right? And again, let's say you've got the 4 maneuver actions. I could shoot with one of my combat actions, and then I can reload with a maneuver action. Then I could shoot with my second combat action and reload with my second maneuver action. And then I can shoot with my third combat action and reload with my third maneuver action. And then that would have used up all my combat actions, and I would still have a maneuver action to maybe move or back up or something like that. And infantry only move 3 inches forward in with an action. So if you got 4, you're not moving super far. You're only moving like 12 inches, right? But on a 4-foot wide table, that is kind of far. Now, if you're in march column, you can double that. You can move 6 inches. So that's interesting, with infantry, that is. In the game, I think the default status of a unit should be loaded, right? And the only time you need to mark a unit is if he doesn't use a reload action, so he'd be unloaded. So I'll have to put like puffs of smoke in front of the unit to let me know that they have fired and that they are not reloaded. And then as soon as I reload, I just pick up the puffs of smoke. I use cotton balls, stretched out cotton balls. Yeah, I really dig that. I dig that aspect of the game. Now they've simplified a couple of things, like crossing obstacles and stuff like that. And of course, all of this is going to go into the boot camp. But you can play this game in, well, first of all, any figure scale. So they have 15, 25, and 40 millimeter ranges and rules. So if you wanted to play this in 40 millimeter, you certainly can, or 25 millimeter. And you can play it with any basing scheme that you currently use. So you can use whatever basing scheme you are using for the games that you're playing, like Napoleon's Battles, or not that you would be playing American War of Independence using Napoleon's Battles, but if you had like Black Powder or General d'Armée, or whatever you've got, however you've got your British Grenadier. So however you've got them based is how you can use them. The issue is both sides have to have the same basing idea. Okay, and there's one thing I wanted to point out before I end this video. It's the unit special abilities. It's considered an advanced rule, special element rules, where different types of units get different special abilities like dragoons or elite, grenadiers, Hessians. Okay, there's light dragoons, Indians, militia riflemen, or just militia or Minutemen. And then there's Rangers and actual riflemen. The one I have concerns about is the light infantry one. Because it says every nation has trained soldiers, their duties, the soldiers typical, shorter, and agile, blah, blah, blah. It costs points. And it says formations available, any. Right? But then it says special rules, scouts. And if you go to the special rules, scouts, it says, due to the nature of their fighting style and their preponderance of moving rapidly, scouts can never form into battle line. Which basically means your light infantry can never be in line. But when you look at light infantry, it says formation any. Now, if you go to, let's find an example. Indians, right? They have, there's formations available. Open order, which is like skirmish, or march column. And that's it. But they also have the scouts special ability. But yeah, so that kind of contradicts itself, because you got formations available, any, and then scout says never in the battle line. But there's other units up here that list available formations. Okay, riflemen have the same thing. They have something called rifle, marksman, scout, and cumbersome. Okay, we don't need to go into all of that, but the formations available is open order and march column. That's it, just like the Indians. But they also have scout, right? And scout would mean open order and march column. So I can't take my riflemen and put them into a line. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, so that's a rule that I think I'm just going to DX. And why does my rifleman have cumbersome when cumbersome is a cavalry special ability? It says there were several mounted militia and rifleman units that were used as effective scouts, but it was far easier to dismount to fire effectively and reload their muskets. For this reason, elements with the cumbersome rule must dismount from their horses in order to spend a maneuver to reload. Okay, because you can have cavalry riflemen. That's interesting. I would have thought it would have been called something different. Another thing, militia have this ability called self-preservation. And self-preservation means that they start the game shaken. They're not, even if they're fully rested, they'll never be fit. They'll only be shaken. And I understand that's trying to make them closer to breaking, right? Uh, yeah, Shaken must pass a morale test before charging, and it basically gives you one less level of damage because you start at fit, and when you take a certain number of hits, you um, move to shaken, and then from shaken you go to exhausted, and then from exhausted you go to shattered, which basically means you remove them from play. So if a unit is labeled as militia, it's going to dissolve faster, right? Because it's already one layer closer to extinction. Which I get that. And there's two more rules that I kind of want to just throw out there. There's one that's called firing lane, punishing volleys. Okay, so, and the ragged volleys as well. But a firing lane, this is the first rule set that I've ever seen really dig into this. If you've got an element here and there's the enemy line or whatever that you're getting ready to shoot at, if you have another friendly element inside your threat zone, which is straight ahead 12 inches, you can't fire. You're not allowed to fire because I guess the bullets would go through the enemy and hit your friend. So units are not permitted to fire. So when you surround another unit, you have to be conscious of your facing. So you want to be facing kind of like this so that your threat zone is here and not, into a friendly unit. That's the first set of rules I've ever seen that in. And then, but I like it. I don't know if it's accurate. I don't know how many times. I'm not well versed in this enough to know how many times a unit would not fire because there was a friendly unit behind the unit you were going to shoot at. How many times has that ever happened? I'll have to look that up, figure it out. But Joe Crone thinks it's happened enough that he needed to put it in the rules. Okay, and then there's something called ragged volley and punishing volleys. And these are basically, think of these like critical hits or fumbles, right? Well, let's talk about ragged volley. If you shoot and you roll 2 or more ones, remember it's D6, then you have to subtract 1 hit from your roll. Okay, so let's say you need 5s and 6s to hit, and you're rolling 10 dice, and you roll maybe 3 hits, but as part of those 10 dice, you rolled, for every 2 ones you roll, you subtract 1 from your hits. Okay, I think that's pretty cool. But punishing volleys is done just a little bit different. For every 2 or more 6s you roll, then the element will receive a disorder as well as the hits. And if you roll 2 or more 1s and 2 or more 6s, they cancel each other out. Yeah, so you can have like a really good and really bad roll at the same time. And there's some nuances to the die rolling and how many dice you get and stuff like that. And I'll talk about that during the boot camp next month. All right, I just wanted to point a few of those rules out. I don't know, they were just eating at me. The scout rule, forcing my units to never form line, bothers me. It's, but I'm reading where it says they can form any formation, but they also have the scout rule. So maybe that overrides the scout rule. All right, guys. Thanks for coming out and checking out this project update. Remember, I'm working on Dearborn's Light Infantry and the 4th New York. Now, let me talk about these figures before I actually start working on them. All the figures are, I think they're Blue Moon. Maybe a few of them might be Old Glory. Dearborn's Light Infantry is supposed to be in support of the Morgan's Riflemen, and because they're the ones that have the bayonets and faster reload times because they're not cumbersome. Well, so if an enemy unit gets too close, Dearborn's light infantry should be able to take care of it. And that's why I think they should be able to form battle line. Because they're not in, I mean, they can form skirmish is what I would think. But they don't, but they also can form battle line. The uniforms, because this was kind of a experimental idea where they decided to put musket arm units with the rifle arm units to act as a security blanket, right, with bayonets and muskets and a more traditional infantry unit. Because the muskets can shoot a lot further, but they reload slower. So, identifying that, they decided to put a unit with them that can give them cover. But at Dearborn's light infantry was a conglomeration of a bunch of different units, light infantry elements, combined into Dearborn. And then they said, okay, Dearborn, take over. This is your command, right? Well, when I put this unit together, I've decided I'm not going to have a unit of New York, a unit of Connecticut, a unit of Delaware, a unit of whatever, Mass. I'm not going to put them together to form this Dearborn's light infantry. I'm not going to do that. Even though that's probably historically accurate, that's probably what I should do. But that would make them look like militia, and I don't want that. I want it to be easily identified that it is a light infantry unit. So I'm using light infantry figures with the helmet and the bayoneted muskets, right? Not in hunting jackets. They'll be in their coats. Like continental, and they'll be painted like Continental Light Infantry. Mainly just because I want it to look cool. I don't want it to look, ragtag. And then there's the New York unit that I'm going to be doing. They are also dressed like light infantry. With white uniforms, right? White tops, white bottoms, white gaiters. They have black boots, but everything on them is white with some red facings and with the helmets. And I'm thinking that's going to look really cool on the table. So that's why I decided to do both of those at the same time. And basically, it came out of the same bag. So that's good. Now, there will be a couple of figures in there that's got tricorns, and two guys got round hats with side folded up, and they'll probably go in the light, Dearborn's light. All the ones that look a little different will go in the Dearborn's light, and then all the ones that look the same will go in the New York unit, even though the majority of the Dearborn is just going to be the standard light infantry unit. All right, guys. Well, that's it. That's where I want to just end it. Thank you for coming out and watching this project update, and I'll catch you in the next one.